Back like we never left, BDA, and today, guys, we are here with a One Piece discussion, and this is based on chapter 903, the hype that was. Guys, I just gotta say that this chapter, as we know, was fucking fantastic. It was a really amazing chapter. We all enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for one. I know some people did not. I know a few people that didn't enjoy it just because of everything that transpired, but it is what it is. Everybody's not gonna like everything, so it's fine. But today, I'm here to talk about Luffy, of course, and Luffy's bounty in particular. What's always interesting is how people perceive bounties, and I think it's different based on who you speak to, who you speak with. Sometimes someone is going to value a bounty over portrayal or feats and just go back to the bounty and say, hey, they have this high bounty, they must be strong. And you have people that they're not going to care about bounties at all, and they're going to look at actual feats and how they've been portrayed and say, hey, it doesn't matter what their bounty is, look at what they've done. So the bounty conversation, it always ends up in like murky territory, because you have one on one side saying, hey, bounty doesn't mean shit, and someone on the other hand saying, yo, the bounty is everything. And of course, it's somewhere in the middle. So with chapter 903, with Luffy being the 5th emperor and receiving a bounty of 1,500,000,000, that kind of shocked some people. Some people were up in arms saying, no, Luffy should not have that much of a bounty. Other people were saying that, wow, damn, it's about time Luffy got some goddamn respect. I think for me, I'm somewhere in the middle of all this. I definitely like the fact that this was revealed, and I see where Oda is going with the story, where you're giving Luffy this bounty for him to prove himself, for him to show you that he is deserving of this bounty. On the other hand, there's some issues there that could come up because you gave Luffy this bounty. The problems with the bounty I'm going to talk about in the review, but for today, we're going to try to focus on whether or not he deserves it. So the bounty is your danger to the world government, your overall danger. That's why Dragon is viewed as the world's most renowned criminal. He's the world's most dangerous man. And this is due to the fact that he has an entire organization that's planning to usurp the world government. Of course, they're going to fucking care about that. He's wanted. He's the most wanted man in the world because of that. Based on that, a lot of people give Dragon this unbelievable strength. I do as well, but it's not just because of his bounty. Affiliation for me matters. He's Luffy's dad and he's Garp's son. So with that, those two guys are monsters in this universe. So for me, Dragon has to be a monster as well. There's no way he's not a monster too. And it's a shonen. The main character's dad. We know how this story goes. But let's get back to Luffy and his bounty. Before this, Luffy's bounty was at 500 million. He defeated Cracker, who had over 800 million, and Katakuri, who obviously had a billion-berry bounty himself. For me, I wasn't sure if Luffy was going to get a bounty increase. I thought it wasn't going to happen just because of what could happen in Wano, and it was a setup. But Oda, he kind of broke the mold, was like, yo, Luffy did so much, a bounty raise was necessary. And I'm not mad at it at all. This mostly stemmed from the fact that Big News Morgans, let's call a spade, Luffy is one of his favorites, right? He loves what Luffy brings to the table because everything Luffy does is a great story. And Big News Morgans, he even like showed his hand when he talked about Luffy being a prime candidate for Yonko or for the Pirate King, and even declared the worst generation as someone from them is going to become the Pirate King. So we knew that Big News Morgans, he had a lot of stock in the worst generation. For me personally, I was like, okay, the worst generation, they're finally getting some hype outside of Blackbeard and Luffy. They're all going to get some hype. And this chapter kind of said, whoa, slow down a little bit. We have 2 prime candidates. The other guys, they're a ways behind of those guys. And it was like, well, I don't know how I feel about that. We already knew Luffy's contemporaries were like the Yonko, and Blackbeard was going to be his main adversary. But we also wanted it to feel like the other people in the worst generation kind of had a chance. This kind of threw a monkey wrench in that. It was like, they really don't have a chance at all. Right now, at least, as far as the overall spectrum of One Piece. Of course, they could be doing other things, but we just haven't seen it yet. Maybe we have to be more patient and wait and see. But as for right now, Luffy and Blackbeard, head and shoulders. Big News Morgans knows about Luffy's fleet, says has 7 powerful pirate crews serving under his flag, right? He has 5,000 subordinates, And he also mentioned his affiliations. He said the legacy of his brother Ace. He's a sworn brother of Sabo, who's the second in command of Revolutionary Army, who's now a hot topic. So affiliations as well. This is factoring into Luffy's bounty. Like I said, I factor in affiliation. That's why I have Dragon rated so highly, just because of who he is affiliated with. And they mentioned this as to why this is a part of Luffy's legacy now. He's Ace's brother, and Sabo is his brother as well, who's second in command of the Revolutionaries, and Ace was second in command of the Whitebeard Pirates. So he has very famous brothers. The wording of this chapter was also important, because I'm going to wait for the Viz, because the Viz isn't coming out until like May 7th or something like that, I believe. So we have to wait a while. But it said with his extraordinary charisma and leadership, he was able to convince Germa to work under him, the Sun Pirates to work under him, and the Fire Tank Pirates to follow his commands without any delay. Okay, so let's dissect this. Luffy has extraordinary charisma. Sometimes it's kind of clumsy and, you know, comes off as a little rude or whatever, but he has extraordinary charisma. And leadership, that could be called into question based on how playful Luffy can be sometimes, but I feel like Luffy is a good leader. I feel like he's a decent leader, actually. I mean, there's sometimes where you question Luffy's actions, but I feel like in Whole Cake, he had some moments where it kind of surprised me, and that may be another video and another topic we could discuss, but I really like some things I saw from Luffy on Whole Cake. I know a lot of people perceive Whole Cake to be a really bad arc, but there are some gems in that arc that I really want to show you guys, because it's some things in there that you guys are really going to appreciate once you see it again. Okay, so he said the evil army of Germa. Now, Germa did not work on the Straw Hat Pirates. They helped them to escape at the end, but for the most part, they were continuously working against the Straw Hat Pirates. I understand why they said this, though. It would make sense if they don't know the story of Sanji and his family, and if Sanji, who is a Straw Hat, and he's Sanji Vinsmoke, he's a Straw Hat. Why would his family not help them? And think about this. With Big Mom, if Sanji had married into Big Mom's crew, the Vinsmoke, they were going to follow. So logically, Sanji and the Vinsmoke, they're already affiliated and allied with the Straw Hat Pirates. This makes sense. And that's how he, related to the world. The Sun Pirates, we know of everything that happened there, him and Jinbei, that goes without question. The Sun Pirates, they are under the Straw Hat Pirates. That's legitimate. The Fire Tank Pirates, bullshit. That was more so of an alliance. Of course, I give Luffy the edge here. Luffy did a lot more than Capone, but Capone played a great part in everything that happened on Whole Cake Island. Capone had been planning to take Big Mom's head for a while. Granted, his plan did not work, and they had to kind of scuffle all about and, all that stuff. But Capone, they were allies. He was not working under Luffy. He was not saying, I'm going to follow Luffy's commands without delay. They were a tandem. They were a partnership. So with this skewed the numbers. In this way, Capone could have gotten a bounty raise. He definitely could have gotten a bounty raise. I'm not sure, but Luffy, so far, Luffy's getting credit for commanding the Fire Tank Pirates. So that's something that's not true. And of course, if Luffy's commanding another member of his generation, whoa. You kind of have to give him the edge there and kind of hype him up a little bit. And that's what they're doing. That's what they did. They also said with intelligence, he carefully planned this operation. And in the process, he managed to destroy the Queen's castle. Guys, Luffy and intelligence should not ever be in the same sentence. Instinct, strong, charismatic, likable, lovable, not intelligent. Luffy did not plan the operation, obviously. Luffy had some things that happened. Again, some leadership moments when he came up with the plan as far as jumping out of the cake and getting the animals. So he planned some different things that went on, but the entire plan that was not Luffy whatsoever. That's not Luffy's forte. Luffy's like, yo, let's just go there and let's figure it out. That's what happens when you're the leader, when you're in charge, when you're perceived as the leader. When things go right, you get all the credit. When things go wrong, you get all the blame. So for Luffy, things apparently went very right, so he's getting all the credit, or most of it. Actually, all of it. Most of it, because Sanji got a bounty raise as well. As far as destroying the castle, we know what happened there as far as the castle. Like, the Tamatabako box blew up. A lot of things factored into Luffy getting this crazy bounty. We also have to factor in how Luffy defeated Cracker and Katakuri. He had Nami's help to defeat Cracker. We know everything that transpired there. And Katakuri, we can go into that all day as far as like how Luffy defeated Katakuri, him having help or him not having help, Katakuri being nerfed or not being nerfed, or just how Luffy was able to do it at the end. Katakuri, did he throw the fight? Did he not throw the fight? That gets into toxic territory, and I do not want to go there. I want this to be a fun discussion talking about Luffy and his bounty and does he deserve it. So context is removed here. And I remember in my Reverie video that I made, I said that Luffy was going to be said that Luffy defeated Katakuri and defeated Cracker solo. And that's what's being implied here. said he defeated 2 commanders worth over 800 million and over 1 billion respectively. Nobody else was mentioned, right? And we did not see a bounty for Nami. Of course, that could come, but for right now, there's nothing. So that's what I expected. So that is what it is, right? That's legitimate. You have to say that is legitimate because Katakuri was defeated, Cracker was defeated. So they said that Luffy, with everything that transpired, that's his victory, and that's correct. Based on what Luffy was able to do with half of his crew, a makeshift crew, it's his victory. But a lot of things happened for Luffy to accomplish this. His crew members played such a vital part, but they're part of his crew. Him being who he is affects their bounty as well. So of course, their actions are going to affect his bounty. I'm trying to give different perspectives so people can look at it from multiple angles so that we're not just on like the side of like, okay, he doesn't deserve it, fuck it, or he deserves it, fuck it. We can actually look at it and say, oh, okay, I can understand that. Also, we've been saying for the longest that Luffy has not gotten credit for all the things that he has done and how much trouble he has caused. And the world government, they've gotten fed up. They threw the book at him. And of course, Morgans, this goes to show that Big News Morgans, he has a lot of influence. They trust what he says. I think this kind of brings into question Morgan's credibility a bit. After I read this, it's like, well, this is totally no context. And then I thought about it like, this is what the news is. The news reports it to generate clicks, to generate interest. And Big News Morgans, if this is reported, Luffy's supposedly the 5th Yonko, people are going to want to know what happened. And that's a lot of sales. Morgans, he's a capitalist. He's being smart about it. I'm not mad at him, but credibility, you have to question. Of course, all these things happened, but the context is removed. Morgan's job is not to report context. It's to report the news. So I understand that. Now to the main question at hand. Does Luffy deserve his bounty? And I will say, yes. We've always said for the Yonko that Yonkos are not solely strength. Territory, allies, affiliates, crew, all that factored in makes them a Yonko. So in this scenario, strength is not a plus. Allies are. Affiliates are. Feats are. Luffy has done enough to be recognized as a very dangerous pirate. We've been saying this, so when this happens, we cannot be upset. Again, in my review, I'll go deeper into why the issues with giving Luffy this much of a bounty this soon. And when I say this soon, it's funny because it's 20 years later, but there are some issues that I had with it. And that's a personal thing. Now, for the people that are saying Luffy does not deserve this is too much, he's not strong enough. Blackbeard, when he first became a Yonko, he had issues. He was not the strongest Yonko, but he's recognized on that tier. So for Luffy right now, he's the weakest Yonko. Of course, it's 5, so it's Goko and that entire thing. We'll see how that plays out if the whole terminology changes to make sense, but it is what it is right now. Right now, he's the 5th emperor. Let's say that he's the 5th emperor, or this is Morgan's proclaiming, or based on his experience, based on everything that Luffy has done and his influence, his allies. Remember, Marco wasn't even mentioned here. Based on that, he's declaring the 5th Yonko. He's saying this guy should be recognized as the 5th Yonko. Again, we'll discuss how his peers and how everyone reacted to it and how we should read into it. But for right now, based on what I laid out and based on our previous suspicions and how we viewed Yonko and how we viewed bounty, he deserves it. He's finally getting his just due. Again, maybe it's a bit too much, but look at what Luffy has done. Impel Down, Shichibukai, invaded territory, challenged the world government, his affiliations with Dragon, Garp, Ace, Sabo. He has Nico Robin on his crew. He has poneglyphs now. Monkey D. Luffy is a problem, and he should be viewed as such. And I appreciate the world government finally taking the steps to saying this guy is a threat that must be taken out. But guys, let me know what you thought. Do you think Luffy deserves his bounty or not? For me, I think he does. I think Luffy is deserving of this 5th Emperor title. Based on all we know about the series, he is 100% deserving of it. I have my qualms, but is he deserving? Yes, he is. Like the video if you did, subscribe to the channel if you have not. And also, this is the era of Smile, so we're lit, and I'll catch you guys later.